What's good, y'all? It's O.D.D.I.T.Y, and welcome to this week's episode of The Craft. So, in today's music climate, seems like the trend is when it comes to making projects is to go shorter. And it used to just be that hip hop artists would do full length LPs or albums anywhere from 12 to 20 songs. And as we know, attention spans and just the way people consume music, that's not as sustainable. So what a lot of artists have been doing is putting out projects that are kind of in between the LP length and the EP length. So somewhere between like 5 and 8 song projects. And I have had some people ask me, what do you prefer? As someone who enjoys the process of putting together conceptual thematic album, my preference is full length LPs, but I'm also practical and I also know that you have to evolve to the times. So I realize that these shorter projects are more likely to catch traction and be consumed as a whole better than trying to release a 15 song album. And what I've kind of learned over the last year, because I released an album called Impaired Vision almost a year ago, and it was 13 songs, and we decided to push 4 of those as singles. So we did music videos for 4 of them as well. And obviously the ones that you push as singles are going to do better because you're putting more money behind them in marketing. What happens when you're not as an established bigger artist is those other 9 songs just become forgotten. And especially in today's world where songs enter playlists and leave playlists daily and people forget about them, it doesn't make as much sense to do such long length projects as often. Now, the advantage of a longer length LP is that you're able to better tell a story. I mean, you're able to do it in more detail. You're able to have more of an up and down storyline, whereas with 5 to 7 songs, you got to get to the point a lot faster, and that's just with any type of art that's length based. Books, poems, anything that's writing or movies, anything that you're talking about length of time. The less time you have, the quicker the story has to be told, which can also take more skill to do so. So I want to do shorter length projects, not only because that's what's conducive to these times, but also because I like the challenge of trying to do something creatively that is out of my comfort zone. So I think there's also a challenge in doing shorter based projects because you really can't have those album cuts. And what I mean by that is just the tracks that help tie the singles together and help create that larger skeleton of the album. So with shorter projects, 5, 6 songs, basically every song needs to be dynamic to keep that project going. And so you really have to make sure every song is dynamic and catchy for it to really stand alone as a whole body. I think another approach to these shorter projects is, as an artist, it allows you to be able to experiment with a certain sound, production wise and rapping wise, or just an overall vibe within the context of a project on a smaller scale. So you could do 5 songs that are really cohesive, that sound kind of similar, and it's essentially breaking down one song into 5 different songs, and it's easier to do than trying to do that over the course of 15 song album. in my experience from doing longer length albums, you have artists who do create kind of the same vibe song to song for 15 to 20 songs, but in my personal opinion, that becomes monotonous and boring, and you might as well not waste the money on production and studio time and mixing and mastering for 15 songs that are essentially the same song. If you're going to do something like that, you might as well do a shorter project where people can get that vibe real quick, 20-25 minute project versus an hour. I think full length LPs are for that roller coaster of emotions and feeling that an artist wants to put in, that takes you along that journey, so you're able to experiment more with different production and rapping and sounds. Because if you compare an album to a movie, there's no good movie that, for the most part, that stays on the same level. There's ups and downs, and there's drama, and there's suspense, and there's comedy. And I think that for full length LPs, that is what consumers of music are looking for. On the flip side of EPs or shorter projects, just as I was saying that you can use the same vibe or style along all of those songs, you can also flip it up into a experiment of creating like an EP of 5 songs that are 5 distinctly different songs, but they might fit the same theme. So it's a cohesive project, but you're splitting it into 5 different songs that could stand alone as singles, and then you're putting that out into the world and seeing which songs resonate. And I think that's a good strategy to kind of see what your fans are looking for if you're an up and coming artist, and that kind of gives you data and feedback as to what's the best lane to go to for the success of your career. I think that LPs are the best idea right now. I would say it just depends on what level you are as an artist. If you're established and you have a fan base, you can almost basically release any style, any format of release of music that you can think of: singles, EPs, smaller projects, LPs. But if you're an artist who is trying to establish a fan base, I think it's good to have LPs in your catalog, because it gives potential fans kind of a glimpse into who you are. But I think your focus should be on smaller projects, EPs, singles, and kind of gauging what those potential fans like the most before you put a lot of time into building full-length albums. Now, that's easier said than done, because I get it, and I'm in kind of that boat of, what do I want to do creatively as an artist that makes me happy, and what is financially responsible and smart for my long-term career, which it's kind of been a balance, and I've kind of tried to take from both sides of that. I think for me, I want to release an album, a full-length album, every year, but I also know that I need to be doing a smaller project or two, and then just lots of singles. So to sum it all up, it's more so preference, but it's also, you have to balance the pros and cons, and it's subjective to the time that we're in, and it always changes. So it's not to say that it's ever a permanent thing, but just know that if you are spending spending time on 15 different songs for an album, and you don't have an established fan base, just have a plan, and just know that not all of those songs are going to be noticed. It's just how it is. So if you're going to push 2 or 3 songs, that's fine, but just know that the rest of those songs likely will not be doing as well. And it might be more beneficial to do 3 to 5 songs that are all dynamic singles, and you can release that as a project. So Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Oddity. This is The Craft. Be sure to hit subscribe. The channel just got monetized, so I can start monetizing off content, which is pretty dope. And hopefully you'll see my stuff pop up a little bit more in the algorithms. Share it to any hip hop heads you know, any fans of rap. As you know, I'm an artist myself, so I enjoy talking about hip hop and I enjoy making music. So I just dropped a single called Paranoid. It's out everywhere, and I will be dropping a single every 2 weeks. So the next one will be February 11th, and every 2 weeks through May. So if you like what you see in this podcast and you're curious as to what my music sounds like, the links are in the description on all the videos, and you can find me on Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you consume music. I will be there. So I'll see you next Wednesday, and appreciate you.